Welcome back to the Sports Page. We're joined now with Padres beat writer Bill Center.
Annie,
how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Good, good. We're counting down the days to spring training, but I would like to start first, before we get into any spring training. Chase Headley, the Padres third baseman, they are a little far apart. His camp and the Padres camp, about $3 million with those numbers for next year.
Annie, that's a very interesting split, because if it gets to arbitration, and just because they've exchanged numbers doesn't mean it goes to arbitration. They can still negotiate a deal. But if it does, the arbitrator only has two choices. Give him 7, which is what the Padres want to give him, or give him 10.3. And during an arbitration hearing, it's horrible because the club's going to be saying, this is why he deserves 7.75. He's not a $10.3 million player. So you're actually talking down somebody that you want to do well.
And that is the thing. That is why this sport with baseball, it's so amazing how that goes to arbitration, and that both parties sit in there and you hear all the reasons why your team doesn't think that you're, like you said, good enough to make that money.
So you don't want it to go to arbitration. But the thing with Headley is such a wide split. That in my mind, the Padres have probably underbid his value, which leaves the arbitrator, if it does go to arbitration, when he's going to say, is he a $7 million player or is he a $10 million player? The problem is there were 7 third basemen last year that made more than $10 million. He's one of the top 12. Arbitrator's going to go high.
Now, no Padres player has made $10 million since Greg Maddux, correct?
Right. Well, Jake Peavy actually signed an $11 million contract for 2009, but they traded that. They traded that contract away.
Let that go. Now, do you think that they'll reach an agreement, or do you think that it will go to? I mean, you think that's going to happen?
Well, it's very interesting. I think that the Padres now are going to have to sit down and talk a long-term agreement with Chase, 3 or 4 years. But at the same time, his agent might be looking at the Padres' dollar figure and saying, if it comes to push or shove, they're going to accept our 10.3 over your 7.075.
Wow. All right, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Now, for some players that they did agree to terms with, let's see, Will Venable was one of them. Everett Cabrera was another. John Baker, Joe Thatcher. What do you think of all these moves?
Well, I think that, and you got to remember, with any arbitration eligible player, you've got right up to that hearing date that you can negotiate. So I think these were easy negotiations. And the players didn't want to get to a position where they were arguing. And the Padres really made honest market value deals with them. So we're good. Edison Volquez, 5.275. That might seem high. Exactly. Nicely done. It's his final year of arbitration.
Now, what about that catcher position? When you've got John Baker and you've got Nick Hundley coming back, you've got Yasmani Grandal, who's suspended. How do you think that's going to play out?
Well, I think for the start of the season, it's Hundley and Baker. And then when Grandal comes back, it's going to be very interesting, because if Hundley is playing like the Hundley at the end of 2011,
which was spectacular,
and not the disaster that was 2012, which was really terrible. I think that they're going to let Hundley ride with this a little bit. Maybe keep Grandal in AAA a little bit longer, just to say you can't get away with this stuff.
Kind of just a little more time there. Now, Luke Gregerson and also Clayton Richards, such a stalwart. I think about Clayton. I think that starting lineup with him in it is just, last year he saved it. Him and Edinson. So they're a little bit closer together. I think $500,000 with Clayton and about $1 million with Luke.
Clayton's very close, and that's one of those things that's going to get done. I would imagine Clayton's going to get 5.2. I would imagine, my guess, is he gets what Volquez got, 5.275, and there you got your two number 1, number 2 starters. Luke's a little bit farther apart, $875,000, but I still think they get a deal done. I also think there's a possibility that Luke Gregerson could be involved in some trade talks before we get to this season.
And that is another question that I have. They've been relatively quiet, the Padres, this offseason. Do you imagine anything happening before spring training?
Well, they haven't been as quiet as it looks. They've been in on things.
I like it.
They have been in on talks. But Josh Burns, when he got to, hey, do you want to give $13 million to Dan Herron, who's got a medical question for 1 year, he balked. Do you want to give $4 million or 4 years to Edwin Jackson? He balked. So they were in those talks. It did not work out well. But sometimes not making a bad deal is better than making a deal that you later regret.
Absolutely, and this is why we have you on this show. Bring some perspective. You were in on the reports that the Padres are working to get this TV deal negotiated last year. Of course, people that didn't have Time Warner and AT&T Uverse until the end of the season couldn't watch the games. It was more than half of San Diego County. How close are they? I know that the Padres have said we're going to go directly to Time Warner. Is that going to make a difference?
They're not close.
Oh gosh.
They are not close at all, and this is not a San Diego issue.
No.
This involves Time Warner and Fox on a national level. They've been butting heads on a number of different cities.
Absolutely.
But if anybody can get it done, I think Ron Fowler going directly to Time Warner and saying what's it going to take might be able. It's one of those things. Right now, they're poles apart. Yeah. But I think Ron Fowler can maybe find some type of neutral ground. If anybody can, it's Ron Fowler.
Crystal ball. You think it happens this season?
I hope it happens before opening day. I don't think it's going to happen until just before opening day.
Okay, it'll be a last-minute thing.
Right, if it happens.
Right, and some other good news that you reported, they might be trying to bring an all-star game to San Diego.
Right.
But that is also years away, correct?
I think it's 3 or 4 years away.
Okay.
But they're trying. The previous ownership, John Moore's, wasn't a high priority. Yeah. It is a high priority with this ownership, so they want it to happen.
Now, you're just a few weeks from spring training, and briefly, people think that you go out to spring training and it's a party, you're out there tanning, Bill. I know what it's like for you. You're out there for more than a month. It is a grind every day. You looking forward to it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great time of the year. It's the one time where you actually have a lot of time to talk with the players about a lot of different things, just not the ball game each day.
Exactly.
And it is a grind. I mean, you're away from home for 6 weeks, but at the same time, it's a unique time of the year. And I think Padre fans who have come out to Peoria to watch games have always enjoyed the experience.
What year is this for you?
In baseball?
Yeah.
Well, this is my 17th straight year with the Padres, but I started covering baseball in '84, before you were born.
Amazing. All right, well, we can't wait to hear you bring more to us from the Padres. I'm getting so excited about this season. Just around the corner. Bill, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, Annie.
When we come back tomorrow, we're going to have plenty more from the Senior Bowl, plenty more from the Chargers and the Padres. Stay tuned.